Good morning and welcome to Peace Out, where we are all learning together to peace out. And I hope that it's getting a little bit easier. In some ways it feels easier, in some ways it feels harder. Right? Some days it's easy. Sometimes it's just like, okay, God, you can just have this and I'm just going to wait and see what you do with it. And then other days it's like, I got to fix this. This has got to be fixed right now. I can't wait for you. I got to figure it out myself. And we give our peace away, basically. We fail to let it reign in our hearts. So some days is super easy to just trust God. And other days it's just super not. Right? It's just super not easy to trust him some days. I just got to put it that way, right? But we're talking this week about holding on to scripture and using it as our weapon, or not even sometimes as a weapon. Sometimes we can use a scripture, maybe a promise out of scripture or something that we've held on to. And when trouble comes, we pull that scripture out. If we can find scriptures on finances, there is, I promise. There's scriptures on healing. There's scriptures on peace. There's scriptures on relationship. There's scriptures on salvation. You can pray for others. There's a scripture for literally everything. But not everybody's always had that. I was thinking about David. I'm not going to talk about David today, I don't think. But I was thinking about David, and he was talking about his word I've hidden in my heart so that I don't sin against him. And I'm like, he didn't have the Psalms. He was writing the Psalms. He couldn't go to Psalm 46:1 and say, the Lord is my rock, my shelter. He's a very present help in the time of need. He didn't have Psalm 46:1 to reassure himself. He wrote Psalm 46:1 when he was going through a storm. He didn't. Now, he may have had some of the writings of Asaph. He could go read. They didn't have a Bible to carry around. They didn't even have an electronic Bible on the phone to carry around. They didn't have access. Most of this had not even been written. What was he talking about? He was talking about those words that God just dropped in his heart, right? He had the law. He had how it revealed the character of God and the relationship God wanted. When God gave the law, he wasn't giving a whole lot of a list of do's and don'ts. He was trying to get that slavery mentality out of the people. The children of Israel had come out of Egypt. He was trying to retrain their brains, and it took 40 years, y'all. So I don't feel so bad. I don't feel so bad now. But it took 40 years. He was trying to retrain them. They had always been told what to do. They did not know how to think. They did not know how to trust God for provision because they had lived in this slave state for so long. And they didn't have a Bible to go look at. Matter of fact, as they went through the wilderness, Moses wrote half of the Pentateuch, right? The first 5 books. First 2, he couldn't have written all 5 because he died in the second one. But anyway, he wrote all of them out, right? He wrote the laws out. He wrote what God put on us, what God wanted. And the whole thing was for them to learn not to be slaves. The whole thing was to teach them. And I'm already off, but maybe I'll get back to it. But you think about this. God began to provide for them. He did not have to have the fire by night and the cloud by day. That was his way of saying, I'm with you all the time. I'll be your light when it's dark. I'm going to be your shade when it's hot. I am here. He fed them food. He brought them to water many times when they were out of water. He had their clothes didn't wear out. He wanted them to understand that he was now their provider. They didn't have to worry about it. The whole law wasn't so much making up a bunch of stuff that was hard to follow, even though it was, right? The law was more about training them to trust God for literally everything. And when you read it with relationship in mind, it reads differently. It's not constricting. It's not restricting. It's not putting you in a box and going, don't you get out of that box. I'll strike you dead with light. I'll fry you down to your toenails. I'll hit you in the head with a ball bat. No, that's not God. That is not the purpose of the whole purpose of the Torah, Paul says in Galatians, is to bring us to Christ. God was telling the children of Israel, I've got you. You're not a slave. You're not my commodity anymore. You are my community. And the whole thing was God trying to tell them, I've got you. Here's a cloud I'm going to lead you. I'm going to protect you. I'm going to give you shade. Here's the light at night, the fire of God in the middle of the camp. So you know where I am. So you remember I'm with you. It's really a love story. It's not as much law like we think of law. It's more God showing that he was their provision. He was their protector. He was their everything. He was the constant present. He was always there because they had a slave mentality. And when you live in that type of oppression, if you've ever been stuck in like an abusive relationship or something, and when you're in that kind of oppression, you learn to not think. You only respond to try to keep peace in some area to survive. You go into survival mode and you can't think clearly. You can't think, oh, A, B, C. Instead, it's like, do they want A, does they want, or C, is today C, is today a C day? How are they today? This person's weird. The slavery means I just function and I make sure I do what I'm told so that I don't get whacked or something, right? That wasn't what the law was about. The law was saying, I'm with you. I am your provider. I'm going to carry you to the promised land. I'm going to take care of you on the way. I want you to learn to trust me as your God, as your shepherd, as your protector, as your provider. It was not about just laying down all these laws. As a matter of fact, Jesus said, let's just sum all the laws up. They asked him, what's the most important law? He said, the whole law rests in two things. Just love your Lord, your God, with all your heart, mind, soul, and strength, and love your neighbor as yourself. If you do that, loving God first with that much tenacity and that much passion, the rest is going to take care of itself. You love your neighbor as yourself. You love others. The whole law rests on love, not a rigidity that he's going to smack us or jerk this slack out of us or something if we don't do it just perfectly right. He was taking them out of that kind of mentality. So many times people are using the law to try to put that mentality back on us. Well, we got to follow the law. And we don't do the sacrifice, but we're going to follow everything else. You can't follow just part of the law. If you're going to follow the law, you got to do the whole thing. You can't leave anything out, according to James, right? And the teachers of the New Testament too, right? But God was not trying to show them, here's a rigid set of rules to follow. He was saying, I got you. And that's what the law, the Old Testament, the First Testament was really about. It was a covenant. Now we have a new covenant. His law is written on our hearts. And it just says, let's just love God and let's just love people. And when we do that and when we passionately follow God, because remember, God is a God who is passionate about a relationship with his people. That was written in the old law, Exodus 34:14 in the old New Living, right? He's passionate about a relationship. We see his passion in the passage from Egypt to the promised land, right? We see that passion because he's like, you need food? I got food. You need water? Here, put a tree in it. Put the cross in it. Jesus is going to make everything sweet. He's going to give you living water. You're not even going to believe this, God's like, God, you're not even going to believe this you're not going to believe this is going to be really good, right? He's going, but I got you water for refreshing, and you're going to have living waters. When Jesus comes, you're going to have living water. You don't have to worry about that anymore. I got your food. You don't like the bread? You don't like the manna? Okay, fine. Here's some meat. Everybody's got to have some meat. Not me, but most people, right? So he's like, okay, well, here's quail too, so that you have a little balanced meal there, right? We'll take care of that. I got your fire. Your clothes aren't going to wear out. Their shoes what did they do? They grew up. Their shoes had to have grown with their feet, right? Because it says their shoes didn't wear out. Their clothes didn't wear out. They didn't bring a wardrobe with them. And yet God provided for them. And this isn't all what I was going to talk about this morning, but there you go. I'll talk about what I was going to talk about tomorrow. But I just want us to understand that God is about that relationship. He's about community. He's about taking us from one point to the other and teaching us so patiently. He's so patient. He teaches us so patiently to just trust him. He's got us. He's ever present. He's our fire and light by night and our cloud of protection and shade by day. And he's got us covered all along the way, no matter what kind of slavery, soul slavery even we're coming out of, even if that's the law, by the way. But he's bringing us out of that into a community, into relationship, into communion with him. That is the most amazing story when we don't look at it with the rigidity of, you've got to do this first and that and something else. And if you don't do it all, that's a Pharisee. That's a Pharisee. They revoked my Pharisee card because I can't do all that anyway. I would get too garbled in my mind and go, I don't even, what was I doing? What was I supposed to do first? Was there something I was supposed to do before this? No, God's like, no, I just want you to know I got you. I want you to know my nature. My nature is to give you hope and not harm you, to give you a future, an expected end, and a hope, and to make sure that to know that I'm thinking good thoughts about you. Is what he told Jeremiah. That's in the Old Testament too. Imagine that. There was grace in the Old Testament. I grew up thinking there wasn't any grace in the Old Testament. There wasn't much in the New, right? When you looked at it through legalistic eyes, there wasn't even much grace in the New, right? And so I look at that and go, wow, God is so compassionate. And his whole goal is communion and community with us. And that's where we find that fellowship with one another. And that's where when we realize he's really got us, we can peace out. When we realize he's actually really, really, really got us and he's going to take care of us and he's with us. He's not going to leave. He's not going to say your life got ugly there. Oh, I don't like that. Nope. Don't do hospitals. I don't do injuries. I don't do, nope. No, he never walks out on us. Sometimes our vision gets clouded and we have to figure out how to find him again. But he's always going to have that fire in the night and that cloud in the day in our lives. He's not going to leave because he is invested. He has invested a lot in us. Many years. Millennials. He's invested in us and he's not going anywhere. And that gives me peace today. That's why I know I can peace out today. Peace out, you guys. Have a great day. I'll see you again tomorrow.